Ever since I started this account, one of the most commonly asked questions was, how did you become a Muslim? What made you accept Islam? Why Islam? Why not other religion? How did it happen? And I've been saying the same thing. I would say I'll share the story when I'm ready. I would say I'm not ready to share it yet. But after about 2 years of questions, the time came and I'm about to share the story with you. The story is quite simple actually. How did I become a Muslim? I married a Pakistani man. He was a Muslim. And on the day we got married, on our nikah, the imam who was marrying us told me I have to accept Islam in order to get married to my husband, otherwise he will not marry us. So I said my shahada. No, it wasn't that simple. I did say my shahada. It was 5th of June 2016. I did say shahada as requested, but I made clear I do not wish to become a Muslim. I only do that so that I can become my husband's wife, basically, so that we're married. When Imam requested that I say my shahada in order to get us married, my husband got very upset and he was ready to cancel our nikah because, well, there's no force in Islam and this request was not something that he was expecting, especially that I do come from a Christian family. My family is Catholic, so technically he should have no issues with that, but he did have issues. So my husband was very upset. He wanted to cancel the wedding, but I told him I can just say whatever this person wants me to say and I can just not mean it. And that's what we did because we just wanted to get married. So you could say my story with Islam did start then, but even though I did say my shahada, this was not how I became a Muslim. I come from a Catholic family, but my family, except few members, was never very much practicing. I did have religion classes at school. We would attend church sometimes, and sometimes we would speak of our religion, but mostly it was tradition rather than a belief in my family. So we accepted the existence of God, but you wouldn't really see much of practice in my house. As a child, I used to believe in God. I used to be very happy attending church. I used to read Bible at school and I used to be very active on my religion classes. But the more I grew, the more disappointed I would become with God, with the church, with our religion, and the more I would push myself away from all of it. I would observe people around me, people who claim to be Christians, Catholics and others, and I would observe that there's not much Christianity in their behavior, that there's not much religion there, and I didn't feel like I could follow religion that is represented by people like that. And I was doing my own reading in my own free time. I just felt like even though I did believe in God, I did not feel like it all made sense to me, and I felt that there surely is something more somewhere out there. I just didn't know what. There was a time in my life where I used to simply tell people that I'm an atheist, not necessarily because I was one, but because it was easier to tell them I'm an atheist and I don't believe in any of this, rather than explaining all my feelings revolving around God and people and what I thought about it, because that would usually stir up lots of discussions and arguments. So it was just an easy way to avoid this kind of things. Overall, I think the idea of religion, of all religions, was what I found quite disappointing, because whichever religion I would go and read about, I would always find something that didn't make sense, or that I had no answers for, or that was contradicting itself. I didn't like that, so I was just disappointed with religions, so I just pushed myself away from anything God related. There was a point in my life where I was very curious and I would learn about other religions. I would do my own reading. I would read about, well, as a kid I was quite fascinated by Greek mythology, but I knew that this was just fiction for me. Well, I never took it seriously, but it was still fascinating to learn and to read about. And so I started researching other religions as well. I started reading some Bible, and I was trying to find some other churches, other parts of Christianity that maybe perhaps would speak to me, something that I would probably like better than Catholic Church. But at the end of the day, my conclusion was that religion seems like something man-made for the sake of having power over people, for the sake of abusing people who have no knowledge, no money, and it was just easy way to control and manipulate people. This is what my conclusion was after I researched my religions as a teenager. Even though I consider myself a very tolerant person, my research on religion never went further than Christianity. I would never ever consider Islam. In my head, Islam was dangerous. Islam was where you're not want to be. Islam was something you wanted to stay away from, because everyone knew that they are terrorists and that they just Allahu Akbar and just kill people. So I just stayed away from that, and I never even thought of researching it. I did marry a Muslim man, and his faith and his religion and his knowledge was very strong. He was a practicing Muslim who strongly believed in his religion, and he knew for a fact that Allah is his way of living. So I didn't know much about Islam, and I never cared much for Islam, but I did marry a Muslim man, and his faith was strong, his knowledge was huge, and he always knew what to say and how to answer things. And it wasn't even Islam, his knowledge was huge about other religions, Christianity and Judaism. He just knew so many things I would never ever learn from any teacher in my entire education. I have to say his faith was quite surprising for me. I have few practicing family members, and I know few of my friends who are quite practicing Christians. But I never understood how can they be so practicing, and how can they believe so much in God to actually follow Bible, to actually try their best to live by the rules. Because for me it just didn't make sense. For me, Bible didn't make sense. So I could never understand it. And then I saw my husband, who believed in Allah very much and whose knowledge was huge, and we talked a lot about it. We ended up talking about religions, not just Islam, about Christianity and Judaism and Buddhism and Hinduism. We ended up talking about all these things. We had hour-long conversations, hours and hours of talking, and he would never get emotional about things or irrational. His words were always supported with facts and statements and quotations, and he could just explain things in a very rational way, and I just enjoyed us talking about these things, even though I was never interested in becoming Muslim myself, because that was not something I would have planned for myself ever. So even though he knew so much, even though his faith was so strong, it was still something very difficult for me to understand, and I still thought that surely he's so smart, he should have known better, he should have stopped limiting himself with religions, with man-made rules and limitations. And I thought that perhaps he's just a little bit lost, but maybe a little bit radicalized, or I don't even know, but I thought that I can help him free himself from Islam and from religions and from God. I can be a good wife, and I'll show him what freedom is. That's what I thought. Because even though we spoke for hours about Islam, in my head Islam was still dangerous, it was still bad, it was still what they showed in social media and in media for years in Poland and in Europe and all over the world. In my head, he was not representing Islam or Muslims. In my head, he was somehow good, just a little bit lost. And I didn't think that perhaps what he is actual representation of Islam. No, I just thought that he is just being a bit different from other Muslims, a bit better and a bit more wise, perhaps. To quote my brother, as he once said about my husband, why can't all Muslims be like that? Why do they have to be bad? I didn't know what to say, and then I realized that this is how people think. They meet one good Muslim, and instead of thinking, hey, that person represents Islam, Islam is actually not that bad, they think,